Now let's begin. The headlights cut through the downpour as Wade Cross turned onto Maple Grove Drive, windshield wipers working overtime against the October deluge. 3 days in Chicago presenting his research on novel drug interactions had felt like 3 weeks. He'd spent most of the flight home thinking about Toby's soccer game he'd missed and the promise he'd made to take his 8-year-old son to the Science Museum this weekend. But when Wade pulled into the driveway, his exhaustion evaporated into something colder. Toby sat on the porch steps, alone, no jacket, his thin t-shirt plastered to his small frame, dark hair dripping into his eyes. The boy wasn't shivering, wasn't moving at all, really, just staring at the wet concrete between his sneakers like he'd found something fascinating in the puddles. Wade killed the engine and was out of the car before his mind could catch up to his body. Toby, his son's head lifted. Those brown eyes, Melody's eyes, met his without surprise. Without relief, just a strange, flat recognition that sent ice through Wade's chest. Dad. Toby's voice was steady, too steady for a kid who'd been sitting in a thunderstorm. You're home early. What the hell? Wade bounded up the steps, already shrugging out of his coat to wrap around his son's shoulders. Why are you outside? Where's your mother? Where's? That's when he saw the note. White paper, edges curling from moisture, taped to the front door. The handwriting was unmistakable, Margarita Tucker's precise, Catholic school cursive that she wielded like a weapon of judgment. He's not welcome inside until we return. Mill. Wade read it twice. 3 times. The words didn't change. They left yesterday morning. Toby said quietly. For Cape Cod. Grandma Rita said I was grounded for being disrespectful. Grounded? Wade's voice came out flat. Outside. In a storm. I have my sleeping bag in the shed. And I've been eating the granola bars from my school backpack. Toby pulled the coat tighter around himself. It's okay, Dad. I knew you'd come home eventually. Wade's hands were shaking. Not from the cold. From the calculation he was running. How many laws Margarita had broken. How many ways he could make her pay. How long it would take him to drive to Cape Cod. And, Dad. Toby's hand on his arm. Small fingers, wrinkled from rain. There's something you need to see first. Before you do anything. The boy reached into his jeans pocket and pulled out a plastic baggie. Inside was a small orange prescription bottle. Wade took it, angling it toward the porch light. The label read, Melody Cross, diazepam 10 milligrams. Take 1 tablet daily, as needed for anxiety. His wife's anxiety medication. Nothing unusual. Except, open it, Toby whispered. Wade twisted the cap, shook 2 tablets into his palm. They weren't diazepam. He'd know the small yellow pills anywhere from his years at Harmon Pharmaceuticals. These were white, oblong, with a distinctive scoring down the middle. Digoxin, cardiac glycoside, extracted from foxglove. In therapeutic doses, it treated heart failure. In accumulating doses, carefully administered over time. While they were packing for vacation, Toby said, I went through Grandma's purse. I found something else too. He pulled out his phone. Wade's hands were too numb to take it. So Toby held it up, showing a photo of a small notebook. The page visible showed columns of dates and numbers written in that same cursive. September 15th, 0.5 milligrams. September 22nd, 0.75 milligrams. September 29th, 0.75 milligrams. October 6th, 1 milligram. And at the top of the page, circled twice. M. Cardiac event expected by November 15th. Wade couldn't breathe. Couldn't think past the roaring in his ears. His wife, Melody, who'd been feeling so tired lately, who'd joked about turning into her mother with all the doctor's appointments, who'd lost 12 pounds in the past month because nothing tasted right anymore. Her mother was poisoning her. Dad. Toby's voice seemed to come from very far away. Dad, you're scaring me. Wade forced himself to focus on his son's face. This brilliant, observant kid who'd just saved his mother's life. Who'd been locked out in the rain for it. He smiled. It felt like his face was cracking, but he smiled. You did good, buddy, he managed. Really good. Now here's what we're going to do. You're going to take a hot shower while I make you dinner, and then we're going to have a very important talk about what comes next. Okay. But Mom is going to be fine. Wade pulled his son into a fierce hug. I promise you, your mom is going to be absolutely fine. 2 hours later, Toby was asleep in Wade's bed, warm and dry and safe. Wade sat at his home office desk, The prescription bottle and Toby's phone photos laid out in front of him like evidence at a crime scene, which is exactly what they were. His hands were steady now. The initial shock had burned away, leaving something colder and infinitely more dangerous. Wade had built a career on methodical thinking, on following evidence to its logical conclusion, and the evidence was screaming. He opened his laptop and pulled up Melody's medical records. She'd given him access years ago when Toby was born. Recent visits to Dr. Raymond Chambers, her primary care physician. Complaints of fatigue, nausea, irregular heartbeat. Tests ordered. Results pending. Digoxin poisoning could mimic a dozen different conditions. It was slow, insidious, and if you didn't know what to look for, nearly impossible to catch until it was too late. Wade checked the dosage schedule in Margarita's notebook. She'd been increasing it gradually. Smart. Avoiding the acute toxicity that would raise red flags. But the cumulative effect. He pulled up Melody's life insurance policy next. $5 million. Beneficiary, Wade Cross and Toby Cross. Except, there, a rider from 6 years ago, when Melody's father Vincent had died. If Melody passed before age 35, the full amount would go to Margarita Tucker instead, in trust for Toby's care. Melody was 32. Wade sat back, fingers drumming against the desk. Margarita had been living with them for the past year, ever since she'd claimed her Cape Cod house needed extensive repairs. Funny how those repairs never seemed to get done. How she'd inserted herself into every aspect of their lives, especially into Melody's daily routine. Making her breakfast, fixing her tea, organizing her medications. The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. He checked the calendar. Margarita, Melody, and Melody's sister Lindsay Perez had left yesterday for a long weekend at the Cape House. They'd be back Sunday afternoon, 3 days from now. 3 days. Wade's phone buzzed. Randy Aguilar, his research partner and best friend since grad school. You back from Chicago? Randy's voice was warm with caffeine and late-night lab work. How'd the presentation go? Randy. Wade kept his voice level. I need a favor. A big one. And I need you to not ask questions until I can explain everything. A pause. What do you need? Access to the mass spectrometry lab. Tonight. And I need you to run a full tox screen on some blood samples. Wade, if something's wrong, I'll explain tomorrow. But right now, I need to know exactly what my wife has been ingesting for the past 3 months. Another pause, longer this time. When Randy spoke again, his voice had changed. I'll meet you at the lab in an hour. The Harmon Pharmaceuticals research facility was dark except for the third-floor windows where Randy had his lab. Wade used his ID badge to access the building, carrying a small cooler that contained vials he'd collected from Melody's bathroom cabinet. Old blood samples from her recent medical workups that she'd been told to save for follow-up testing. She'd been too tired to take them to the lab herself. Margarita had offered to do it. Of course she had. Randy was waiting, already setting up the equipment. He was a compact man in his 40s, with gray threading through his dark hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. He looked at Wade's face and immediately poured 2 cups of coffee from the ancient pot. He kept running. Start talking, he said. Wade told him everything. The note on the door. Toby in the rain. The pills. The notebook. The insurance policy. Randy listened without interrupting, his expression growing darker with each detail. When Wade finished, he was gripping his coffee cup hard enough to crack it. Jesus Christ. Randy set the cup down carefully. Wade, that's attempted murder. I know. We need to call the police. Now. With what? Wade gestured to the vials. Pills that could have been switched by anyone. Photos a kid took that any lawyer could claim were staged. A notebook that might not even be admissible. Margarita would destroy everything before they could get a warrant. She'd claim Melody's illness is natural, that the pills must have been mixed up at the pharmacy, that her notes are just a worried mother tracking her daughter's symptoms. Then what? I need proof. Irrefutable, scientific proof that Melody has been systematically poisoned. And then I need 3 days to make sure Margarita can't destroy evidence, can't run, can't talk her way out of this. Wade's voice was ice. She locked my son outside in a storm, Randy. She's been killing my wife. I'm not letting her walk away from this. Randy studied him for a long moment. You have a plan. I'm working on it. And it's legal? Wade met his eyes. Legal enough. Randy turned to the mass spectrometer. Then let's get you your proof. The results came through at 2 a.m. Wade stared at the printout, the peaks and valleys of the spectral analysis confirming what he already knew. Digoxin, present in Melody's blood at levels that would have been fatal within another 3 weeks. Her kidneys were already struggling to process the cumulative toxicity. Her heart was showing early signs of arrhythmia. 3 weeks. He'd been in Chicago for 3 days, presenting research on drug interactions while his mother-in-law tried to murder his wife for insurance money. There's something else, Randy said quietly. He pulled up another screen. I ran a search on Vincent Tucker, Melody's father. He died 5 years ago. Heart attack. Sudden cardiac death. Age 61. Previously healthy. Randy's finger traced the dates. 2 months after Margarita convinced him to increase his life insurance to $3 million. 1 month after she moved in to help him recover from knee surgery. Wade's blood turned to ice water. I accessed his medical records. Don't ask how. He had the same symptoms leading up to his death. Fatigue, nausea, irregular heartbeat. And look at this. Randy pulled up an old prescription history. He was on metoprolol for mild hypertension. Low dose. Routine. But in the 3 months before he died, someone filled prescriptions for increasingly higher doses at 3 different pharmacies. All using his information. All claimed to be picking them up on his behalf. Margarita. If you give someone enough beta blockers, especially an elderly person, you can trigger severe bradycardia. Heart stops. Looks completely natural. Randy's jaw was tight. Wade, I think she's done this before. The room spun. Wade gripped the lab bench, forcing himself to think through the fury. Margarita Tucker had murdered her husband. Was murdering her daughter. Would have gotten away with it if an 8-year-old boy hadn't gone through her purse. I need copies of everything, Wade said. Vincent's medical records. The prescription history. Every piece of data you can pull. What are you going to do? Wade looked at the spectral analysis of Melody's blood, the evidence of his mother-in-law's methodical murder attempt. Then he smiled. I'm going to give her exactly what she wants. Saturday morning, Wade drove to Cape Cod with Toby secured in the back seat. The boy had barely spoken since they'd left, just clutched his tablet and watched the highway roll past. Are we going to tell Mom? Toby finally asked. Yes, but carefully. Wade glanced in the rearview mirror. Your mom loves her mother, buddy. This is going to break her heart. Grandma Rita tried to kill her. I know. And she locked me out in the rain. I know that too. Wade's hands tightened on the wheel. Which is why we're going to do this right. No mistakes. No room for her to talk her way out of it. They found Melody at the Cape Cod house, a sprawling Victorian that had belonged to the Tucker family for 3 generations. She ran out when she saw Wade's car, barefoot and beautiful, and so heartbreakingly fragile that Wade had to remind himself not to crush her in his arms. What are you doing here? She laughed, confused and delighted. I thought you had work, Toby. She spotted their son and her expression changed. Why does he look like he's been through a war? Because your mother locked him outside in a thunderstorm for 2 days, Wade said evenly. Melody's smile died. What? Where's Margarita? She and Lindsay went into town for groceries. They'll be back. Wade, what are you talking about? Locked him out. Let's go inside, Wade said. You need to sit down for this. He showed her everything. The note. The pills. The photos. The lab results. Melody listened in complete silence, her face getting paler with each piece of evidence. When he finished, she was shaking. No, she whispered. No, there has to be, this can't. Mel. Wade took her hands. They were ice cold. Your father. Did he have the same symptoms before he died? Melody's eyes went wide. Oh my God. Oh my God, Wade. I know. She killed him. She killed Dad, and now she's... Melody's breath came in short gasps. I trusted her. I let her into our home, around Toby. I let her make my breakfast and... Breathe, Wade commanded. Melody, breathe. You're alive. Toby's safe. And we're going to stop her. How? How do we? The police, we need to. We will. But first, we're going to make sure she can't destroy evidence or run. And we're going to make sure she pays for every single thing she's done. Wade's voice was granite, starting with what she did to Toby. Melody looked at their son, who'd been sitting quietly in the corner. Her face crumpled. Baby, I'm so sorry. It's not your fault, Mom, Toby said. Grandma's the bad guy. Through her tears, Melody laughed. It was a broken sound, but it was real. She pulled Toby into her arms and held him like she'd never let go. Over their heads, she met Wade's eyes. Tell me what you need me to do. Lindsay Perez arrived home an hour later, arms full of grocery bags, chattering about the farm stand peaches. She stopped dead when she saw Wade. "You're back early," she said carefully. Lindsay was 35, 3 years older than Melody, with their mother's sharp features and their father's kind eyes. She'd been divorced twice and lived in a condo in Boston that Margarita constantly criticized. Wade had always liked her, had always thought she got the short end of the stick in the Tucker family dynamics. Now he studied her face, looking for signs of complicity. "Where's Mom?" Lindsay asked, setting down the groceries. "Still in town. Meeting some old friends." She glanced between Wade and Melody. "What's going on? You both look—" "Mel, are you okay? You look terrible." "I'm fine," Melody said. But her voice cracked. "She's not fine," Wade said. "Lindsay, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest. Has your mother said anything to you about Melody's health? About her being sick?" Lindsay frowned. "She's worried about her, yeah? Mel's been exhausted lately, and losing weight, and Mom keeps saying the doctors can't figure out what's wrong." "What?" Wade exchanged a look with Melody. Lindsay didn't know. "Thank God. There's something you need to see," Wade said. He showed her a condensed version, just enough to prove what Margarita had done without overwhelming her. Lindsay listened, her face cycling through confusion, disbelief, and finally horrified understanding. "Dad," she breathed. "She killed Dad. That's why she was so insistent about the closed casket, about the quick cremation. She said it was what he wanted, but—" "It wasn't," Wade said. Lindsay sat down hard. "What do? We make her confess," Wade said. "On camera. With witnesses. And then we call the police." "How?" Wade's smile was sharp and cold. "By giving her exactly what she's been working toward." Margarita Tucker returned at sunset, carrying a bag from the liquor store and humming cheerfully. She was a handsome woman in her early 60s, always perfectly put together, with silver hair she wore in an elegant twist and the kind of posture that made everyone else feel slovenly. She stopped humming when she saw Wade. "What a lovely surprise," she said smoothly. "I didn't expect you back until Sunday." "Finished early," Wade said. He was sprawled on the couch, projecting relaxation. "Thought I'd surprise my girls." "How thoughtful." Margarita's eyes flicked to Melody, calculating. "Melody, dear, you look peaked. Have you been taking your medication?" "Every day," Melody said. Her voice was hollow. "Just like you remind me." "Good girl." Margarita patted her daughter's shoulder. "Though you really should eat more. You're wasting away." Wade felt Melody tense beside him. He put a hand on her knee, squeezed gently. "Not yet." "Actually," Wade said, "Melody hasn't been feeling well. I think we might head back home tomorrow instead of Sunday. Let her rest in her own bed." He watched Margarita's face carefully. "There, just a flicker. Disappointment? Frustration?" "Oh, but we so rarely get time together," Margarita protested. "And the ocean air is so good for her health." "I think Wade's right, Mom," Melody said. "I'm really tired." "You're always tired lately." Margarita's voice had an edge. "It's almost like you're not even trying to get better." Lindsay came down the stairs carrying a suitcase. "I'm heading back to Boston tonight," she announced. "Early meeting Monday." Margarita's perfectly maintained expression cracked. "But you just got here." "Work emergency." Lindsay wouldn't meet her mother's eyes. "Sorry, Mom." She left with quick goodbyes, pressing Melody's hand with meaningful pressure. One less person to worry about. One less potential casualty if this went wrong. The evening dragged on with excruciating slowness. Margarita made dinner. Pasta with cream sauce, fresh bread, a salad that she insisted Melody eat every bite of. Wade watched his mother-in-law carefully portion food onto plates, noticed how she lingered over Melody's, how her hand dipped toward her pocket and back. He'd switched the pills in that pocket this afternoon while Margarita napped. The digoxin was now safely locked in his car. What she was adding to Melody's food tonight was nothing more dangerous than sugar tablets. But she didn't know that. After dinner, Wade suggested they all turn in early. Margarita agreed with suspicious eagerness, reminding Melody to take her evening medication before bed. "Of course, Mother," Melody said. Her smile was brittle and beautiful. "I never forget." Wade stayed awake long after the house went quiet, listening to the ocean crash against the rocks below. At 2 a.m., he heard movement in the hallway. Margarita's door opening. Soft footsteps. She was checking on Melody, making sure her poison was working. Wade closed his eyes and waited. Tomorrow, he'd make his first move. Tomorrow, the trap would begin to close. And Margarita Tucker would learn what it meant to threaten Wade Cross's family. Sunday morning dawned gray and cold. Wade woke to find Melody already up, staring out the window at the churning Atlantic. "I can't believe I didn't see it," she said without turning around. "My own mother. All those times she made me breakfast, helped me organize my pills, drove me to doctor's appointments. She was killing me the whole time." Wade crossed to her, wrapped his arms around her from behind. "Sociopaths are good at hiding. It's what makes them dangerous. How did Toby see it when I didn't?" Because Toby wasn't looking at her through a daughter's eyes. He saw what was really there. Melody turned in his arms, her face drawn. "What you're planning, Wade? Is it legal? Getting her to confess?" "Yes. And the other parts?" Wade's smile was sharp. "Legal enough." They drove back to Providence that afternoon, Margarita riding in the back seat and complaining about the shortened trip. Wade listened to her chatter about how Melody really needed to see a specialist, how her symptoms were getting worse, how perhaps they should consider a hospital stay. "The doctors haven't found anything wrong," Melody said flatly. "Sometimes these things are hard to detect," Margarita said. "Your father had the same problem, remember? They didn't find the heart condition until it was too late." Wade's hands tightened on the wheel. The audacity of this woman, using her first murder to set up her second. "I remember," Melody said. "I remember everything about Dad's death." Something in her tone made Margarita shift in the back seat. "Well, we all miss him terribly. Do we?" "Melody, what a horrible thing to say." "Is it?" Melody met her mother's eyes in the rearview mirror. "Because I'm starting to wonder if we really knew him at all. Or you. I don't know what's gotten into you," Margarita said stiffly. "Wade, has she been taking her medication properly?" "Every dose," Wade said. "Exactly as prescribed." They pulled into the driveway just as the sun was setting. Toby was waiting on the porch, this time warm, dry, and flanked by Randy Aguilar. "Wade," Randy said. His face was grim. "We need to talk." Margarita's expression flickered. "Is everything all right?" "Family matter," Randy said. "Wade, it's important." They went inside. Wade had set this up yesterday, the phone call timed perfectly. Randy had the lab results, the evidence, everything they needed. But more importantly, he had Detective Kelsey Fleming on speed dial. "Melody," Wade said, "could you help your mother get settled upstairs? I need to speak with Randy privately." Melody's eyes flashed understanding. "Of course." As soon as Margarita was out of earshot, Wade turned to Randy. "Tell me." "I ran additional tests on the samples. Found traces of digoxin in Melody's hair follicles going back for months. That's systematic poisoning, Wade. Long-term intent to kill." "Good. There's more." Randy's voice dropped. "I accessed Vincent Tucker's cremation records. There was a dental match required for the cremation certificate. I had a friend in the medical examiner's office pull the original x-rays and compare them to dental records from 5 years before he died." Wade's pulse kicked up. "And they don't match. The tooth positions are wrong." "Wade, I don't think the body they cremated was Vincent Tucker." The room tilted. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying either your mother-in-law killed the wrong person, or Vincent Tucker might still be alive somewhere." Wade sat alone in his office long after Randy left, turning over this new information. If Vincent was alive, if Margarita had somehow faked his death, that changed everything. The insurance payout for his death had been $3 million. Margarita had collected it all. But where was Vincent? And how did Margarita convince everyone he was dead? A sound in the hallway made Wade look up. Toby stood in the doorway, clutching his tablet. "Can't sleep?" Wade asked. "I was thinking about Grandpa Vincent," Toby said. "Mom showed me pictures once. He looked nice." "He was nice. You would have liked him." Toby climbed into the chair across from Wade's desk. "Dad, when Grandma was packing for the trip, I found something else in her room. I didn't think it was important before, but now." He pulled up a photo on his tablet. A storage unit receipt. Location, North Kingstown. Unit number 247. Rental started 5 years and 2 months ago, right after Vincent died. "Toby," Wade breathed. "You brilliant kid. Should we tell the police?" "Not yet." Wade was already pulling up a map. "First, we're going to find out what she's hiding." They hit the storage facility at dawn, Randy driving while Wade rode shotgun, and Toby dozed in the back. The facility was one of those sprawling complexes off Route 1, all identical orange doors and numeric signs. Unit 247 was in the back corner. Wade used the bolt cutters they'd brought, snapping the lock with a sound that seemed impossibly loud in the quiet morning. The door rolled up with a metal shriek. Inside was a small furnished space, a cot, a mini fridge, and sitting at a makeshift desk, staring at them with hollow eyes, was Vincent Tucker. He was gaunt, gray-haired, and looked about 20 years older than the man in Melody's photos. But the eyes were the same. "Please don't tell her you found me," he said. His voice was a rasp. "Please. She'll kill me this time." The story came out in broken pieces over the next hour. Margarita had been slowly poisoning Vincent 5 years ago, just like she was doing to Melody now. But Vincent had figured it out. He'd confronted her. "She told me if I went to the police, she'd claim I was abusing Melody," Vincent said. His hands shook. "She had photos. Bruises she'd given herself, made to look like I'd done it. Medical records she'd forged. Melody would have believed her. My daughters would have thought I was a monster." "So you faked your death," Wade said. "She arranged it all. Found a homeless man about my age, someone who wouldn't be missed. Drugged him, killed him, burned the body beyond recognition. Made sure the dental records got mixed up in the system." Vincent's voice broke. "She made me watch. Said if I ever tried to leave, if I ever contacted my family, she'd do the same to Melody." "Jesus Christ," Randy breathed. "I've been here for 5 years. She brings me food once a week, just enough to keep me alive. Shows me pictures of Melody and Lindsay. Reminds me what she'll do to them if I don't cooperate." Vincent looked at Wade with desperate eyes. "How did you find me?" "Your grandson," Wade said. "He went through Margarita's things." "Toby." Vincent's face crumpled. "He must be so big now." "I've missed." He couldn't continue. Wade pulled out his phone. "Mr. Tucker, I need you to tell this story again. On camera. Every detail. Can you do that?" Vincent straightened. For the first time, Wade saw a glimpse of the man he must have been before Margarita broke him. "Will it stop her?" "Yes." "Will my daughters be safe?" "I promise you." Vincent Tucker looked at the camera and began to talk. By the time they got back to Providence, Wade had a plan. It was risky, possibly illegal, definitely the kind of thing that would give any lawyer nightmares. He didn't care. Margarita had murdered an innocent man, had imprisoned her own husband for 5 years, had tried to kill her daughter, had tortured Wade's son. She was going to pay for all of it. "Here's what we're going to do," Wade said. They were gathered in his office. Randy, Detective Fleming, who Randy had called in, and Lindsay, who'd driven back from Boston the moment she'd heard about their father. Melody was upstairs with Toby and Vincent, having the reunion that should have happened 5 years ago. "We need Margarita to confess," Wade continued. "But more than that, we need her to think she's won. That Melody is dying and the insurance money is about to be hers." "How do we do that?" Lindsay asked. Her eyes were red from crying, but her voice was steel. "Melody checks into the hospital tonight. Heart arrhythmia, critical condition. I'll call Margarita. Tell her the doctors don't think Melody will make it through the week." Detective Fleming frowned. "You're going to fake her death?" "No. I'm going to fake her dying. There's a difference." Wade pulled up a document on his computer. "I've already contacted an ADA friend. We can get a wire warrant based on Vincent's testimony and the physical evidence. Margarita will come to the hospital, and when she does, we'll be recording every word." "She'll be careful," Randy warned. "She's gotten away with this for years." "She'll be greedy," Wade countered. "That's her weakness. She's so close to getting what she wants. She won't be able to resist gloating. And if she doesn't confess?" Wade's smile was ice. "Then we have Vincent's testimony, the forensic evidence, and the exhumation of that body in Vincent's grave. Either way, she's done." Detective Fleming studied him. "You know this is all going to come out in court. Your father-in-law's imprisonment, the murder of that homeless man, everything. I know. It's going to be hard on your family. Not as hard as burying my wife would have been." Fleming nodded slowly. "Okay, let's do this right. No mistakes." Melody was admitted to Providence General at 8 p.m. with acute cardiac distress. The doctors, who Wade had carefully briefed, ran tests, looked grave, and told Wade in loud voices that they were doing everything they could. At 8:30, Wade called Margarita. "It's Melody," he said, letting his voice crack. She collapsed. "They don't." He took a shaky breath. "You need to come to the hospital. Now." Margarita arrived 20 minutes later, her face arranged in perfect concern. But Wade saw the glitter in her eyes, the suppressed excitement. She thought she was about to be rich. How is she? Margarita asked, gripping Wade's arm. Not good. The doctors say her heart is failing. They don't know why. Everything came on so suddenly. These things happen, Margarita said. Poor darling. Can I see her? Wade led her to Melody's room. His wife lay in the hospital bed, monitors beeping, for in her arm. She'd done her makeup to look pale, sickly. She looked like death. Mom, Melody whispered. I'm here, sweetheart. Margarita rushed to the bedside, all loving concern. You're going to be fine. You're strong, just like your father. Wade watched Melody's face carefully, saw the flash of pain and rage before she controlled it. Dad died too, Melody said. Heart attack. Just like this. These things run in families, Margarita said smoothly. She glanced at the monitors, at the 4 bags. Are the doctors giving you something for the pain? Just morphine, Wade lied. They're trying to keep her comfortable. Good. That's good. Margarita patted Melody's hand. You rest now, darling. Everything's going to be all right. But as they left the room, Wade heard her mutter under her breath. Finally. The wire caught every syllable. Over the next 3 days, Margarita visited the hospital regularly. Each time, Melody looked a little worse. Each time, the doctors shook their heads and talked about how rare it was to see heart failure progress this rapidly in someone so young. And each time, Margarita's mask slipped a little more. On the 3rd day, she arrived with a folder. Insurance papers. I know this seems premature, she told Wade in the hospital cafeteria, but we need to be realistic. Melody's condition is deteriorating. And if the worst happens, we need to make sure Toby is taken care of. The insurance, Wade said flatly. $5 million is nothing to sneeze at. Of course, most of it should go to Toby's trust. But as his grandmother and guardian. I'm his guardian, Wade interrupted. Of course. I meant co-guardian. Someone needs to help you manage that kind of money. Margarita's smile was poisonous sugar. I only want what's best for my grandson. Like you wanted what was best for Melody. Margarita's smile never wavered. I don't know what you mean. Don't you? Wade leaned forward. Tell me, Margarita, how long have you been poisoning your daughter? The cafeteria noise seemed to fade. Margarita's face went perfectly still. That's a terrible accusation, she said carefully. Is it? Because I found the digoxin. I found your notebook. I had Melody's blood tested. Wade washed her eyes. And I found Vincent. All the color drained from Margarita's face. That's impossible. Storage Unit 247, North Kingstown. He's been very chatty about the past 5 years. About the homeless man you murdered. About how you faked his death and threatened to kill his daughters if he ever tried to escape. Margarita stood up so fast her chair fell over. You can't prove any of that. Can't I? Wade smiled. The body you cremated doesn't have Vincent's dental records. That's going to raise some interesting questions when they exhume it. And then there's the forensic evidence from Melody's blood work, the prescription fraud, the insurance fraud. Stop, Margarita hissed. Stop talking. Why? Worried someone might hear? They're already listening, Margarita. They've been listening for 3 days. Wade gestured around the cafeteria. See that woman in scrubs? Detective Fleming. The janitor by the door? Her partner. And the camera in your purse that you thought was broken? It's been recording everything. Margarita looked like she might be sick. You can't. This isn't legal. Actually, with a wire warrant and probable cause, it's completely legal. Your attorney will explain that when you call them from jail. They'll never convict me, Margarita said. But her voice shook. I'll say you're lying, that Vincent is crazy, that you didn't just try to get me to sign insurance papers for my dying wife. Wade stood up. That you haven't been visiting the hospital for 3 days asking pointed questions about her medication? That you didn't mutter finally when I told you she was dying? Detective Fleming was already walking over, her badge out. Margarita Tucker, she said. You're under arrest for the attempted murder of Melody Cross, the murder of John Doe, the kidnapping and false imprisonment of Vincent Tucker, insurance fraud, and prescription fraud. You have the right to remain silent. Margarita's face twisted into something ugly. You don't understand, she spat at Wade. Melody was always weak. Just like her father. Always whining. Always needing something. She didn't deserve that money. I earned it. I put up with Vincent for 20 years. Raised those ungrateful girls. Mom. They all turned. Melody stood in the cafeteria doorway. No longer pale. No longer dying. Healthy and whole and heartbroken. You're fine, Margarita whispered. But the monitors, the doctors. Actors, Wade said. Every one of them except Detective Fleming. We just needed you to think you were winning. Margarita lunged for Melody. You ungrateful bitch. After everything I've done. Detective Fleming's partner grabbed her before she could get close. Margarita screamed, struggled, hurled obscenities that made the other cafeteria patrons stare. Melody just watched, tears streaming down her face. I loved you, she said. You were my mother. And you tried to kill me. You were always weak, Margarita snarled as they cuffed her. Just like your father. You deserved. Enough, Detective Fleming said. She looked at Wade. We have everything we need. They led Margarita away, still screaming. Wade put his arm around Melody as she collapsed against him, sobbing. It's over, he murmured. She can't hurt you anymore. My whole life was a lie, Melody gasped. My father, my mother, everything. Not everything. Wade turned her to face the cafeteria entrance. Vincent Tucker stood there, thin and gray but alive. Toby held his hand. Dad, Melody breathed. Hey, sweetheart, Vincent said. His voice broke. I'm sorry I was gone so long. Melody ran to him, and Wade watched as a family began to heal from 5 years of lies. The trial was a media circus. Margarita's attorney tried every angle, claimed Vincent was mentally unstable, that the homeless man had died of natural causes, that Melody's poisoning was a pharmaceutical error. None of it worked. The evidence was overwhelming. Vincent's testimony, backed by the storage unit rental records and his own medical documentation. The autopsy results from the exhumed body, showing digoxin poisoning and confirming the dental records didn't match. Melody's hair follicle test showing 4 months of systematic poisoning. The wire recordings of Margarita's own words. And Toby's photos. A child's simple act of going through his grandmother's purse had unraveled 5 years of murder and manipulation. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. Guilty on all counts. Margarita Tucker was sentenced to life in prison without possibility of parole. As they led her away, she looked at Wade with pure hatred. You destroyed my family, she hissed. Wade smiled. No, I saved mine. 6 months later, Wade stood in his backyard watching Toby and Vincent kick a soccer ball back and forth. His father-in-law had gained back most of the weight he'd lost. The gray had faded from his hair with proper nutrition, and the hollow look was gone from his eyes. Melody came up beside Wade, slipping her hand into his. She'd made a full recovery once they stopped the digoxin. The doctors said she'd been within 2 weeks of complete heart failure. I still can't believe Toby figured it out, she said. He's brilliant, Wade said. Gets it from his mother. And his father. Melody leaned against him. You could have just called the police, you know, when Toby first showed you the evidence. And risk Margarita destroying evidence? Claiming the pills were switched at a pharmacy? Getting a good lawyer to create reasonable doubt? Wade shook his head. I needed her confident. Greedy. I needed her to think she'd won so she'd get careless. It was risky. You were dying. I wasn't taking any chances. Melody was quiet for a moment. Lindsay called. She's thinking about writing a book. About Mom, about what happened. She wants to call it The Perfect Daughter. Ironic. She says it might help other people spot the warning signs. Sociopaths in the family. Financial abuse leading to murder. Will you be okay with that? Having it all public. Melody watched her father and son playing together, making up for 5 years of stolen time. I think so. If it helps someone else. If it stops another Margarita Tucker. Toby scored a goal and hooped, and Vincent laughed, a sound they thought they'd never hear again. Yeah, Melody said. I'll be okay. Wade pulled her close, breathing in the scent of her shampoo, feeling her heartbeat strong and steady against his chest. His family was safe. His son was happy. His father-in-law was free. And Margarita Tucker was exactly where she belonged. 3 days. That's all it had taken. 3 days from the moment Margarita returned from Cape Cod to the moment the police arrested her in that hospital cafeteria. 3 days to dismantle 5 years of murder, manipulation, and lies. Wade Cross smiled into his wife's hair and thought about his son, brave enough to go through a purse, smart enough to know something was wrong, strong enough to sit in the rain and wait for his father to come home. That kid was going to do great things. They all were. Because they were survivors. And they were finally free. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your time. If you enjoy this story, please subscribe to this channel. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.